Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel. In this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. If you remember, yesterday we discussed Kherson direction and there were nothing from this area, but today the Russian sources published at least 3 geolocated videos from this direction. On first video we see how the Russians managed to destroy Ukrainian ammo depot that located on the north of the settlement by the name of Kazatsky. On the second video we can see how the Russians made like bomb attack with aircraft bomb FAB-500 inside of the settlement by the name of Berislav. So very heavy explosion. I'll remind you that this week, the previous week, the Ukrainians announced about a total and massive evacuation of the population, and Berislav and Kazatsky was in that list. So basically there are no more civilians, no more population in the settlements, and every single building in this area is under complete Ukrainian control. The Ukrainian authorities were forced to do this because of casualties and losses, and possible casualties and losses among civilians as a result of air bombings, and the main reason is to stretch the Ukrainian army and not allow the Russians to destroy the concentration, very massive concentration of Ukrainian troopers. Also, the Russians published another video of their attacks against the settlement by the name of Dachi that located along the Antonov Bridge. So as we can see, the Ukrainians also continue concentration and accumulation of their forces in this area. The Russians attack the settlement with toss flamethrower systems. So what does it mean? We understand that Ukrainians continue concentration of their forces, and there is like 2 purposes of this concentration. The first one is that Ukrainians just want to make like not a false flag, but make to force the Russians think that Ukrainians are planning to start crossing the river and start creation of the bridgehead on the Russian bank of the Dnieper River. And of course, for these purposes, to prevent this attack, the Russians need to keep a very big army here, very big reserves, which allows the Ukrainians to develop their offensive operation in Zaporozhye. Another very interesting video we got from Energodar. Probably this is the same video that we discussed yesterday, but from another angle, but not maybe yesterday, but like on the 15th of September. Yes. What is interesting in this video, the first of all is that if we take a look, if we zoom in better, there was like a very heavy explosion of Russian defense system in this area, and now we can see the same situation from another angle. And as you can see, this video was made from the Ukrainian side of Dnieper, from Kakhovka reservoir, and as we can see, this area is almost completely ready for landing operation. And I believe that we are going to see the intensifying of actions in this direction sooner or later. The latest time, the next year, the Ukrainians and the Russians will try to maintain the gray zone and to establish their positions closer to each other. Maybe the Ukrainians will try to make offensive operation with pontoon bridges, and they will try to attack the Russian positions in Energodar. Anyway, this is going to be the next or the new front line that will be opened very soon. And we are talking about the area and Kakhovka reservoir. Now we are moving to Zaporozhye area. During the previous night, the Russians made massive missile strikes against the cities like Dnipro, Zaporozhye and Kharkiv. The Russians were attacking the Ukrainian military facilities, industrial areas, the production of weapon areas, and so on. As you can see on this photo, there was a very heavy explosion in Zaporozhye, and probably some accumulation or another ammo depot was destroyed. Now we are moving to Zaporozhye itself, to the battle for Robotyne and Verbova, and today we got another, like a lot of geolocated FPV drone strikes by the Russian forces. And you know that there is a very interesting analysis that we got from Last Armor resource, Russian resource. Let's take a look at this diagram, and this diagram shows us the usage of drones, not like Lancet drones or something like this. We're talking about FPV drones. This is the diagram that shows the usage of FPV drones since the beginning of the special military operation, to be more precise, for the previous year, I believe so. And as you can see, the first line represents the information regarding September. So by 16th of September, according to information that we can find in the open sources, the Russians used around 303 times FPV drones. This is just geolocated videos. Probably the Russians used a lot more, maybe 600, maybe 1000, but when talking about geolocated videos with results, so there was like resultative attacks around 303 times just for half of September. When talking about August, the Russians used around 242 times FPV drones. When talking about July, 122, and June, 91. So as you can see, in comparison with June, the Russians managed to increase 3 times usage of the drone just for half a month. So basically we can say that the Russians are trying to create and establish complete FPV drone superiority, and we see that they're pretty good with this. We know at least 2 of the most powerful and the most important operator of drone squads, like Babry. For example, Babry published another series of videos how they were attacking and destroying the Ukrainian armored vehicles who were operating along the Living Road, main supply road that goes from Orekhov to Robotyne, and as a result of drone strikes, another few tanks and armored vehicles were destroyed. Furthermore, the Babry squad published another series of videos how they were attacking and bombing the Ukrainian positions on the southern Robotyne fortifications. This is the current Ukrainian positions that they're trying to use for concentration of their forces for further offensive operation in direction of Novoprokopovka. So significant superiority of Russian FPV droners. And when talking about this type of weapon, during the first phase of special military operation, probably the second one, so let's say since the beginning of the previous year till probably June or May of this year, the Ukrainians had this superiority, like FPV drone superiority, because this is very cheap type of weapon, and the Ukrainians did have possibilities to buy these drones from China, from other countries, to equip them with bombs and to use them. And they, because of like easy access to this type of weapon, the Ukrainians had superiority in the past. And because we see that Ukrainians have more democratic or liberal way how to supply forces. When talking about the Russians, we see that there is another type of support and supply forces. We can say like dictatorship, military dictatorship, we can call it like this. And this is the reason why it took so long time to involve this type of weapon into Russian forces. But as soon as Russian authorities realized the value of this type of weapon, currently we see that for the previous 2-3 months, the Russians managed to establish full and complete superiority using this type of weapon. And this is a very bad piece of news, because the Russians do have a real powerful industrial potential to build probably thousands, not just hundreds, but thousands of this drone each week that can give another push for the Russian offensive operation and for another push for development of the special military operation. Also, the Russians continue bombing and attacking the Ukrainian positions in Robotyne itself, trying not to allow them to concentrate their forces. From the Ukrainian side, we got very interesting geolocation that took place between Robotyne and the settlement by the name of Kopany. In this video, we see how the Ukrainians FPV drone tried to attack and get the Russian troopers, the Russian soldiers on the fields, who was trying to shut down drone with AK-12, and as a result of that strike, he managed to survive. The drone exploded. The explosion was a little bit in the meter of the trooper, and he managed to survive. Now we're moving further to Donetsk direction, and we got another portion of video with FPV drone strikes, and this time the video was published by unknown FPV drone squad operators. Anyway, we see that the Russians also continue attacking the Ukrainian positions in Krasnogorovka and in the vicinity of the settlement. So this area is very concentrated of Russian fire, so I will expect some movements in this area as well. Now we're moving to Klishchevka, Andriivka area. The Ukrainians published video how they managed, to be more precise, the 3rd Assault Brigade Azov published the video how they established their own personal flag, not the flag of Ukraine, in the settlement, which probably means this is probably the 3rd day in a row when the Ukrainians published videos about the situation in the settlement. That means that Ukrainians established control over this small village. When talking about the map, as you can see, I have updated the map, but I still keep some small territory, few buildings in this area is in the gray zone, because most of geolocations we received let's take a look at the previous days as well, took place in the western part of the settlement, and we haven't received even a single geolocated confirmation about the eastern part of the settlement. So that's why I'm just keeping this area in the gray zone. I don't think that there are Russians. I believe that the Russians have their positions in the underground facilities. The Ukrainians probably have control over the western part, and let's say the eastern part of the settlement is in the gray zone. So this is the current configuration. Now we're moving to the north, and as you can see, the Russians continue bombing and attacking the settlement Ivanovska with FPV drones. This is third most famous Russian FPV drone squad operators by the name of Krylataya. They also made a lot of strikes, they destroyed a lot of armored vehicles and so on, and we see that the number of these strikes is increasing and increasing. The number of operator squads is increasing and decreasing. The guys get more and more experience in this type of warfare, and I understand that this special military operation or war will be finished not by artillery strikes or nuke strikes. This war will be finished basically by the number of FPV drones operators and their how experienced they are going to be. When talking about the Ukrainians, they published another video how they destroyed the Russian air defense system Bukom-3 using, as I understand, HIMARS missile. HIMARS missile strike, but it's not like look like HIMARS missile. Maybe that was some kind of mistake or something like this. But anyway, as we can see, as a result of some long-range artillery duels, the Russians lost air defense system, and also the Russians lost some positions and some military base inside of Svetlodarsk. The Russians reported that as a result of strike in Svetlodarsk, there were casualties among civilians. Around 7 people died. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.